We all think we know the story of the Library of Alexandria, right? This epic, tragic loss of ancient knowledge. But today, we're not just digging into the history, we're going to look at the storytelling itself, and from a really, really unique angle.
So let me ask you this. Imagine you're a director. How on earth would you film that? I mean, how do you capture an event that monumental? How do you make an audience actually feel the weight of losing centuries of wisdom, all gone, in a single night? That's the core challenge we're going to explore.
Okay, so here's our blueprint. And this is the really wild part. Our source today isn't some dusty old history book. It's a prompt, a set of instructions written to guide an AI in making a cinematic video about it. And what that does is give us this incredible behind-the-scenes look at the deliberate choices you make to build an emotional story from the ground up.
All right, so first things first. In any good story, before you can show a great loss, you have to establish what's being lost. You've got to make us care. So let's look at how this prompt builds this perfect, golden world, pretty much just so it can all be torn down.
The very first instruction is all about atmosphere. See, there's no action, no tension, just beauty. Sunset, golden light, a peaceful city. And you have to know that's not an accident. Not at all. It's the calculated first step in our emotional journey.
And this really gets to the core of it. I mean, you can't mourn something you don't value, right? The prompt deliberately builds this idyllic image of Alexandria, this absolute paradise of knowledge, so that we appreciate it, so that we fall in love with it before it's ever threatened.
And the instructions are so specific. Every little element is chosen for a reason. That golden light, it makes everything feel warm and precious. Marble buildings, they signal grandeur, something permanent. The Pharos Lighthouse, that's an icon of civilization. And calling it a city of scholars, that tells us this place is about ideas, not just bricks and mortar. And then we move inside. This command is the emotional core of the whole first act. The library isn't just a building, it's a temple. The prompt wants us to feel a sense of reverence. The words majestic and sacred, they're absolutely key. It's like we're supposed to feel like we're standing in a holy place, but for the human mind.
Okay, the stage is set. Now let's see how the prompt builds into the disaster itself, because this is where it gets really clever. It sets this huge creative constraint. How do you show the destruction of a city without focusing on violence?
This slide just lays out the entire philosophy here. The prompt explicitly says to avoid violence and suffering. So instead, the focus shifts to something more abstract and, in some ways, way more terrifying. It's about the environment turning against the center of knowledge and that rising tension that comes from a threat you can't just fight.
So how do they build this tension? It's all through these subtle environmental cues. You've got smoke on the horizon, a classic sign of trouble coming. Glowing embers drifting through the air like deadly little seeds. And notice, people aren't fighting. They're trying to save something. And that slight camera shake? That's there to make us, the viewer, feel physically unsettled. It's a total masterclass in building suspense.
And here we are. We've arrived at the heart of the tragedy. The fire is reaching the library. But even here, at the absolute peak of the action, the focus stays incredibly specific and symbolic.
This is probably the most important rule in the entire prompt. It's even repeated just for emphasis. This story isn't about the physical pain of a few people. It's about the intellectual and cultural pain of all of humanity. By removing that immediate human drama, it elevates the burning scrolls to represent a much, much larger tragedy.
This is a classic literary device, right? And the prompt uses it for maximum effect. We're not watching paper burn. We're watching history disappear. We're watching potential discoveries, lost philosophies just turn to ash. The object, the scroll, stands in for the idea. And the visual instructions are just pure poetry. Scrolls burn softly, crumble into ash, embers floating in slow motion. This isn't a chaotic, raging inferno. No, it's a beautiful, quiet, and deeply sad disintegration. It's treated with the solemnity of a funeral.
So, after the climax, after the worst has happened, how do you end a story like this? Well, the prompt's final instructions are all about crafting a quiet, haunting final impression that's going to stick with you long after the screen fades to black.
And notice the rhythm the prompt creates. First, you get the epic collapse of the roof. Then, it pulls way back to a quiet, wide shot of the city, just letting the scale of it all sink in. And finally, it punches right back in, super close, on a single burning scroll. The camera moves from the epic to the intimate, and that makes this massive historical loss feel deeply personal.
And it's only after all of that, after all the carefully crafted visuals have done their emotional work, that the text appears. And this isn't just a fact, it's a thesis statement. It's the final, heartbreaking summary of everything we've just witnessed.
And you have to realize, this entire emotional blueprint we just walked through was constructed just to lead to this one sentence. It's the punchline to a tragedy, and it's all designed to make us feel the profound fragility of human achievement.
And really, this is why the story of Alexandria still resonates so powerfully. It forces us to ask a really difficult question. The library wasn't just stone and papyrus, it was a concentration of human thought. So what are our modern libraries? Are they our digital archives, our fragile ecosystems, our cultural traditions? And maybe the most important question is, are we doing enough to protect them before the smoke starts appearing on our horizon?